Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Leaders Podcast. Leaders Podcast gives me the opportunity to speak to some of the most influential and well-respected leaders in the investigation and intelligence world. Today, I'm joined by Keith Schafferius from Australia. He's the oldest, probably most well-known investigator in Australia and on the global stage. Keith, welcome today. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Just quickly introduce yourself, please.
Great, thanks, Mike. I'm Keith Schafferius. I've spent my whole life as an investigator or an intelligence officer. Started off in the Royal Australian Air Force at age 19 and became involved in intelligence. The Air Force trained me as a cook and sent me to a top chef's college. So whenever I had to go and jump in somewhere, I could get a quick job in a hotel or a restaurant, and did that in Vietnam, and believe it or not, in Brisbane, in one of the leading steak barbecue hotels. I had to work for 5 or 6 months to catch a couple of Air Force crooks selling spare parts secrets.
So hold on, Keith. So you were trained as a cook in the Air Force and then used to go undercover for the Air Force. Is that right?
That's correct. I did do some work in the Air Force, in the officers' mess, not too much because they had me out working, and it was always my cover for when I went to Vietnam. I worked in an Australian restaurant there in Ubon, Thailand, worked undercover. It was always easy to get a job as a cook or a chef, and the hotel in Brisbane, I applied and got a job making sandwiches in the kitchen, and I infiltrated and got to know the guys and caught them out. It's always really interesting, Mike. I could never think of anything more interesting than being a private investigator or a spy.
So you trained with the Air Force and then left and went into the private sector, Keith? What happened after that?
While I was still with the Air Force, I did a little bit with Australian Security Intelligence, ASIO, and spent 2 years seconded to ASIO, and didn't take the opportunity to join up full time. So in 1969, I set up my own business together with a state police officer who I bought out after a couple of years, and since 1969, I've been operating and still operating as a private investigator, actually the longest licensed in Australia and the only private investigator in Australia profiled on Wikipedia.
Oh, fantastic. Right, I want to get into your career a little bit, Keith, and talk about some of the cases you've worked on. I know there's hundreds, probably thousands of cases globally, but which one stands out as one that you'd remember, one that stands out the most for you?
There's some varied cases around the world, and one that really sticks in mind is a sting, as I'll call it, that I had to do in Hollywood on a law firm who were adopting out babies, unlawfully adopting. The law firms do the adoptions, and if the biological father doesn't want to adopt the child, they're not allowed to adopt it out. So what this law firm was doing was hiding the young pregnant mother, and so the father couldn't get to serve documents or restraining orders. And this cotton farming family from Milwaukee called me up and asked me to go over. They didn't want to use anyone local because they were feared he may be known. And I went to see this law firm in down the bottom end of Rodeo Drive, Hollywood. And believe it or not, I told him my daughter was on Rotary Exchange in the US and she was pregnant to the house parent's son. And they wanted to keep the child, but we didn't, the daughter didn't. And he went into the full story of how they hide the mother. We hide her in a monastery until the baby is born, and as soon as the baby is born, it'll be adopted out into Canada or somewhere else in the United States. And I unlawfully left a little transmitting biro pen on his desk, And 2 days later, he phoned me and he said, "Oh, Keith, you left your pen here." I said, "Oh, that's where it is it? I'll be back next week to pick it up." So I could listen to everything that went on in the hotel. But the best part that really sticks in my memory is back at the hotel in the cocktail bar that evening. There was a beauty having cocktails. I couldn't resist. I had to go and introduce myself. And it was Julia Roberts, Pretty Woman. And I had cocktails and dinner with Julia. She was single at that stage. That was in the late 1990s. And had cocktails with her the next day and stayed in contact.
Do you think that's where the film Pretty Woman originated from then? Your little liaison, your meeting?
A Pretty Woman, she was a pretty woman. Another interesting case, Mike, a major finance company in Brisbane asked me to go to the US, and it was to West Palm Beach, Florida. There was a boat builder here on the Gold Coast of Queensland who went bankrupt, and he disappeared and took 2 large yachts with him, and they gave me the case to find him. So I found him, and he had taken the yachts to Florida and was trying to sell them there. So they asked me to go over there and interview him, find him, interview him, and try to get him back and get the money from him. But the most interesting thing, Mike, that afternoon, that was about 1997, I think, he said to me, "Do you know a guy named Donald Trump?" I said, "Yeah, he's that rich guy and has a beautiful wife." I said, "That's him." He said, "He owns this penthouse. He'll be here this afternoon. So if you hang in for half an hour, you'll get to meet him." So Keith hung in for half an hour and got to meet Donald Trump and chatted with Donald Trump for 2.5 or 3 hours. I won't go into the conversation. That's very interesting, and I believe a few of the stories going around. And there's just so many. Life as a private investigator is just so interesting. Every day is different. Child recoveries I've been involved in around the world. I've recovered, I think, 43, 44 children from various countries, for British, for Americans, for Canadians, New Zealanders. And I've always had good support from the intelligence agencies around the world because of my previous ASIO connection and being well known, and especially from Israel. There's just so much support that a private investigator to succeed really needs to have. There's private investigators out there who do nothing but follow workers' compensation people around and film them working when they shouldn't be, and fair enough, but I've had a lot more than that. A lot of really interesting cases around the world. Had to follow a few well-known movie stars around when they came to Australia. I stood for federal parliament in Australia in 1990 for the federal seat of Brisbane, which was the major seat for the federal government, for the Liberal Party. And Olivia Newton-John, the beautiful singer, was a great supporter of mine, and she supported all of my campaigns. The only problem, more people came to see Olivia than they did me.
Were you a private investigator at that time?
Yeah, I took time. My business was really large, and I supported myself for campaign for 13 months. I paid for campaign, paid for a campaign secretary, and campaigned for 13 months. Came second, and you don't get any prizes coming second in politics. But overall, out of I think 87 or 88,000 votes, I only by about 800. So it was fairly close.
Oh wow!
Another great case. Speaking on cases, firm of liquidation accountants in the UK engaged my services. There was a guy who had left, went bankrupt, and he took a small 82 passenger ship and 2 Learjets that he didn't disclose the whereabouts, and just disappeared. They thought he was operating off Tasmania or New Zealand over our way, and I came to an arrangement with them where I'd try and find the equipment, and they couldn't pay me any professional fees unless I found the equipment, but they could pay my out of pockets. So I found that I was fairly sure he was operating off South America from Ushuaia and the Falkland Islands, and finance company agreed, not the finance, the liquidators agreed for me to go there, and if I could seize the ship and the 2 jets, I was to be paid 10% of their sales value when they were sold. And sure enough, he was operating there and picking up passengers. Ushuaia. And as Ushuaia is the most southerly city in the world, a beautiful place. The ground moves a lot there. All the houses are crooked, and they don't build stumps in the ground. They set them on logs on top of the ground, so they move. And he was picking up passengers. The Learjets were coming into Port Stanley on the Falkland Islands. So I organised jets pilots, boats captains, crew, and I booked the ship to pick up 10 passengers at Port Stanley, and we seized the lot. And about 4 years later, it was all sold, and Keith got his 10%. It was well worthwhile waiting for.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Talk to me a little bit about the law enforcement in Australia and the relationship with private investigators, the private and public synergy. What is that like?
Hasn't been all that good in the past. It is getting better, and I've been asked to speak for one day on each new intake of officers in Queensland, giving them more of an understanding of what private investigators can do and how they can assist the police, and how the police can assist private investigators. We are allowed to use GPS tracking devices on motor vehicles in Queensland and Tasmania. All other states it's unlawful, and it's been a big help. So the Police Academy have really appreciated my input, and I'll continue to do that as well as I'm able. I did have a run-in last year with a police officer who arrested me, and I was on a child recovery in Brisbane. Because of my age and getting on in years, I don't go out all that much. And on this one particular evening, this young mother had a 7-year-old daughter she came up from Sydney with, so the biological father could see the daughter every few weeks, and he disappeared with the daughter. And I had the case to find the daughter, which I did, and the father was living in a dirty, untidy old garage space, sleeping in a single bed with the 7-year-old daughter, and the mother wanted to go in, and I wouldn't allow her. She jumped out of the car and raced in because the door was open on the garage, and all hell broke loose. And obviously the neighbours rang the police, and 3 carloads of police, 2 carloads of paramedics turned up. I explained to the one police officer what was going on, and I did go in and release the father's hands from around the mother's neck, or numb him. I just put a little bit of pressure on a couple of pressure points, and police officer was quite happy. But another little fat guy came to me and he said, "Keith, I'm placing you under arrest and taking you back and charging you." And he didn't tell me what he was charging him with, so I just played stupid. I said, "Huh? How much are you going to charge me?" And he said, "No, I'm going to charge you criminally." I said, "Oh, there's some criminals right there."
Right.
Anyway, he took my phone and personal effects and pushed me into the back of the police car, and I half fell in. And he said to me, "You know what sort of a car you're getting in, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, it's a Toyota Camry," because it was a marked police car. Later on, another policewoman came, and she said, "Oh, we're going to release you. We're not going to take you back and charge you." I said, "Why couldn't you work out how much I was worth or how much to charge me?" So they let me go, but they kept my telephone. And I asked why they're keeping my phone. I said, "Oh, it could be some incriminating evidence there." I said, "There's nothing on that phone." She said, "Well, there must be something on it." I said, "I can assure you there's nothing on it." And I did have another phone with me, of course, and they didn't pat down my ankles. And as soon as they left, I rang one of my friends in an international intelligence agency. I won't mention which country, and he remotely had my whole telephone wiped, so there was nothing on it.
What would they have found if they looked through your phone? What was there that needed to be deleted?
Probably looking for any communication between the mother and myself and what we were intending to do. And sure, there would have been communication there and texting, but I was able to have the whole lot wiped, and there was nothing there at the end of the day.
Wow.
So I can only repeat, as a private investigator, is most interesting. I can't wait for the next day. Some huge cases. Just a new case only a couple of days ago was to do with a private girls' school and grooming young girls of 10 and 15 back in the 1980s, 1990s. And our brief is to locate teachers and accused people, interview them, and see what they have to say about it. And sure, it's 30, 40 years ago, but it took place, and these people want to take action.
I'm going to talk to you about global networks, right? You've worked all over the world, and it's important to have friends, like you call it, in other jurisdictions around the world to help on a global scale.
I find that being a member of the World Association of Detectives, and as you know, I'm the longest paid up active member at this stage, having joined in 1972, I think. I get good assistance around the world. It is important, and on some of the child recoveries, I've really needed the assistance of some of the intelligence agencies that have respected me. And those guys are aging now, and I'm losing the sort of contact I wanted. Similar to myself, I'm not a young man anymore. Still there working, still helping Harry and communicating and consulting with Harry. In Africa, well, I was getting help there, but that help is gone now. And I find that one of the biggest things now is the extortion and the American from people extorted through emails or whatever. Women falling in love with people who don't exist, just get extorted to spend money. Just continues, goes on and on.
Yeah, you're right. In your lengthy career as a professional investigator, private investigator, I bet you've seen some changes, Keith, right? From when you were out on the ground doing this decades ago to the way investigators operate now. What's the biggest challenge, you think, for guys coming into the industry, for the young ones coming in?
Yeah, going back to the early days when I first started, there was a lot of requirement for evidence of adultery for divorce. So, how should I say, a lot of bare bums and red faces. And that changed in the mid-1970s. And there was more of a call for fraud cases and insurance cases. And now it's changing a lot more to the internet and how would you say it? A lot more research over the internet, non-computer. You need to have a lot more experience with that sort of intelligence.
Mm. Does it change the way an investigator thinks?
It has. It has. I've noticed a change in investigators. Some of the investigators I've known here for years, they just don't think along the same lines anymore, and they just it's too hard. Computers are too hard. Trying to learn, and new investigators like Harry, who's taking over my business, he's was involved in computer IT work and intelligence, so he's already got the training and the intelligence to act in that area.
Yeah, no, I get it. So what bit of advice would you give someone like Harry or someone that's joining the industry as a young investigator? What sort of vision and advice would you give someone like that?
I think promote yourself as much as you can, wherever, to the most obvious areas of business magazines. Join the associations around the world, like the World Association of Detectives and Association of British Investigators. Become known, and at this point in time, I'm the only member of ABI in Australia. So Harry will join that later on, and the Law Society magazines, advertise in those magazines, and promote your services as much as you can in other business magazines. Just keep promoting yourself. I speak regularly at various organisations like Rotary and Probus and View Clubs and all sorts of other clubs and organisations. It was at least once a week at one stage, but I've cut it back a little bit now. And I think promoting yourself, getting to know yourself, you get to work for all grades of people, world famous, wealthy people, people who come to you because they have nowhere to go. And I have worked for accepted all. Some people I haven't charged anything because they haven't had anything, but have worked for them to give them satisfaction and help them to overcome the problems they have been having in their life. Working undercover in various areas. I drove a D9 bulldozer on roadworks at one stage for a guy who owned the earth-moving business, was a state politician who I knew really well, and the Premier of Queensland. And his family are clients of mine, and I just foiled a massive kidnapping. I had contact from a Chinese agent who didn't want me to know who he was. And so I met him, took photographs of him when he was meeting me. I had photographs taken. And when I went to the federal police here, they didn't think there was much in it. And they closed the case after a week. And the photograph I showed them, they said that wasn't a very good photograph. I sent the photograph to our WAD member in Beijing, and she was able to have that guy identified. He was a former Chinese intelligence officer, Chinese government intelligence officer. And he left Australia, and because I was a bit slow, didn't give the information he wanted on where these people had their assets, what their finances from, and how much they had. And so he went to the United States and tried similar there. And left our people know over there, FBI agent who's AD, was able to have him arrested, and he was going to do a similar thing there and probably do a kidnapping for a very large ransom on the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. Just
so you've got to be careful.
So big, some of the things.
Working for people like that.
You know, I've found, because I've been well known, and people come to me when you look up Google or wherever, my name comes up pretty close to the top. And I've had one or two threats during my life. In 70, he said, "Keith, when I find you, so I'm going to kill you. My friend, I'm really busy. Why don't we meet up this afternoon and get it over and done with?" He said, "Oh, you carry a gun?" I said, "I do. Mostly have a gun on my ankle. But I'll tell you what, today I'll leave the gun at home. I'll just bring my feet and my fists and my head. We'll meet in the car park of a certain hotel, and at 3 o'clock this afternoon." He didn't want to meet me. He wanted to come and work for me in the end. I was a very capable and fit young man, and could take care of myself. I would have great thrill taking care of him, making a threat. Yeah, likewise, I was crossing the border from Lithuania into Poland, rescuing a little 20-month-old girl for an American father. I forget which year it was. I think it was during the 2000s. We're crossing the border where there was no crossing, and still the old border fences are there. But they've dug up between the two fences so you can't drive across. And I had two cars. I hid one car in Lithuania, another one in a shed in Poland. And when we were carrying the baby across the border, a motorcycle was coming along. Turned out to be a border guard. Came up to me and started shouting at me in Lithuanian and Polish, and demanding my passport. And he went to draw his gun, and he very quickly lost his gun and his radio, and his motorcycle would no longer work. So he's probably still looking for me. Great stories for my new books that are coming out.
Brilliant. I was going to move on to that. You've written a few books, haven't you, Keith?
Yes, I have. And I've got two more on the go for when I eventually retire. So probably by the end of next year, there'll be books. The last one was on child recoveries, The Retriever.
Yep.
And the one prior to that was Missing Presumed Alive. And I haven't named the new ones yet, but The Retriever has sold 72,500 copies in English in Australia, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And 6,000 copies in Polish, because two of the cases were in Poland, and that's sold really well. Just always sell a few when I'm speaking at these various places, these various clubs, to keep it going. Ask me if I'm retiring. Yes, but probably never will.
You're never going to retire, Keith. I've known you a long time, and I've heard you say, "Yeah, one more year, I'll retire." You're never going to retire. You're never going to do that.
I'm a consultant to Harry for 2 years, so how can I retire?
If anyone wants to see Keith's books, the links are coming up on the screen now. You can click and find out a little bit more about Keith's life and Keith's books. Keith Schafferius, I could speak to you all day. It's been a pleasure speaking to you and understanding some of the most challenging cases you've worked on in Australia and all over the world. Ladies and gents, thanks for listening. It's another episode of Leaders Podcast.